Dr. Yipeng Ge is a family doctor who recently returned from a humanitarian assignment in Rafah in southern Gaza. He joins us now from the Canadian capital, Ottawa. Good to have you with us, Doctor. We know at the beginning of this conflict, Rafah was seen as a safe haven that was removed from the violence that was seen in the north. Now it is very much an active war zone. Explain to us, when were you in Rafah and what did you find there?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I was in Rafah, Gaza, only 2 weeks ago, and the conditions that we saw in the primary care centers that we visited and worked at, and also visited other hospitals, including in Khan Yunis, was the tip of the iceberg with respect to the overlapping crises of food, clean water, and housing insecurity. We saw severely malnourished children on the brink of death, and I'm worried that the children that I did see in this clinic have perished, have died at this point because of the continued blockade of humanitarian aid, the trucks that are not being let in at multiple borders, including at the Rafah border crossing. There are thousands of trucks that are just waiting to get in to provide these supplies, and at this point, there's no other conclusion than this being forced starvation and that of an ongoing genocide that Palestinians are facing in Gaza. The conditions that we saw in the hospitals are patients and families that have experienced the unimaginable, and now they are faced with existing infrastructure that has completely collapsed, healthcare that continues to be attacked. And I had the horrible experience, but also recognizing the privilege that I've had of exiting Rafah when so many Palestinians have not, of checking in on my colleagues at the Emirati maternity hospital to see if they're still alive because of that recent attack at the gates of the Emirati hospital. We are seeing our colleagues being killed. Being a Canadian healthcare worker, my colleagues in Palestine, in Gaza, that are doing the unimaginable work of caring for their patients despite an ongoing genocide, despite the ongoing airstrikes and bombings by Israel. They are still doing the work of looking after their patients and their communities despite everything that they're going through. I have so much respect and admiration for these colleagues, while I see the paralysis and the silence from Canadian healthcare institutions, from the Canadian government, from the Western world that is the so-called democratic world, and that continues to fail the people of Palestine, of Gaza, as they face the unimaginable. And now the children that have died from severe malnutrition are in the double digits. And I don't even know what further we need to see and hear from the ground from Palestinians that have been experiencing the ongoing Nakba since 1948, the displacement from their traditional homelands, and the number of patients and healthcare workers that we saw. They were displaced almost 4 times, having moved through different hospitals that have been attacked, like Al-Shifa, Al-Nasser Hospital, and now the impending and imminent threat that Rafah faces is unimaginable.
Yes. And Doctor, to your point, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food has said that Israel is intentionally starving Palestinians during its 5-month-long operation now. And we know that at the moment, several parties are at pains to try and agree on a ceasefire. How crucial is it at this point that there be a cessation of hostilities?
It's the utmost and highest priority for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. There is no humanitarian solution to what is happening in Rafah, what is happening in Gaza, because the humanitarian workers that are doing the work on the ground, the healthcare workers that are doing the work on the ground is just peanuts, is just a drop in the bucket with respect to what is actually needed for the people of Gaza. What is needed is water. What is needed is food. What is needed is decent shelter. And all these things have been systematically withheld or completely destroyed by Israel upon the people of Gaza. And we need a permanent and lasting ceasefire so that there may be a path forward for self-determination and agency for Palestinians. That I do not see any other pathway forward other than a political solution for Palestinians to see an end to their illegal occupation in the West Bank, to see an end to the brutal violence and apartheid state that is Palestine. And you know, Palestinians have been screaming at the top of their lungs for generations about the apartheid, about the genocide, and now we're seeing, you know, it unfold from all of our screens, from all over the world, and yet Western nations remain complicit. You know, so-called Western democracies remain complicit and allow this horror to continue and to do performative actions such as drop, you know, food and supply aid from the air.
Okay. Dr. Yipeng Ge, I'm afraid we will have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us on the program and the very best of luck with your work.